Welcome to your Cyber Tips Explainer, where we make everyday people understand the cyber world around us. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on a hidden global conflict. This is a war being fought not with soldiers and tanks, but with keyboards and code. We are diving deep into the shadowy world of state-sponsored hacking. This isn't some science fiction movie plot. This is a daily reality, and it has absolutely enormous consequences. That quote you see from a U.S. Assistant Attorney General, it's not an exaggeration. In fact, the word staggering might be an understatement. We're talking about covert operations that can cripple entire economies, steal the blueprints for our next generation of technology, and just totally disrupt the lives of millions, all in an instant, and all without a single shot ever being fired. And this invisible war, well, it's escalating. And it's escalating fast. A huge report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies found that these kinds of attacks have surged by 60%. Think about that. A 60% jump in just 6 years. That isn't a slow creep. It's a wildfire that's spreading across our hyper-connected world. And the embers are landing in places you'd never, ever expect. So how in the world did we get here? And more importantly, what does all of this mean for us? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. We'll look at what this invisible war actually is, we'll profile one of the most dangerous cyber armies on the planet, map out a decade of this digital conflict, pinpoint some of the surprising targets, and finally, explore how we can all build a digital defense. Okay, let's dive in. All right, Section 1, the invisible war. So, let's get on the same page. What are we really talking about when we say state-sponsored cyber attack? You hear that term thrown around a lot, but what's behind it is way more organized and way more targeted than just some random hacking. At its core, it's when a country uses its digital power as a weapon. Plain and simple. Think of it like a government having a new branch of its military, but instead of soldiers and spies, they have elite coders and hackers. Their mission? To break into systems, to steal, to sabotage other nations, big companies, even individuals, all to achieve a very specific goal. It's espionage, warfare, and a high-stakes heist all rolled into one, and it's happening in a world with no borders, cyberspace. But why? Why would a country pour millions into this? Well, our analysis shows it really boils down to 4 key drivers. First, there's political interests, stuff like trying to meddle in foreign elections or just stirring up chaos to weaken a rival. Then you've got economic espionage. This is about stealing priceless trade secrets, like the formula for a new medicine, just to give their own companies an edge. Third, there's classic national security, the old spy game of gathering intel on what other countries are up to. And finally, military objectives, the outright sabotage of an opponent's most critical infrastructure, like taking down their power grid during a conflict. And this is where things get really interesting, because this has completely changed the rules of international conflict. Cyberpower has become what experts call a great equalizer. Think about it. A smaller country with a really skilled team of hackers can now go toe-to-toe with a global superpower in a way that was just impossible before. You don't need a billion-dollar aircraft carrier if you can shut down your enemy's main port with just a few lines of code. It levels the playing field in a really unpredictable and, frankly, dangerous way. So theory is one thing, but to see how this really works, let's zoom in on one of the most notorious groups playing this game in the shadows. Let me introduce you to the Lazarus Group. These guys have been accused of some of the most audacious cybercrimes of the last decade. And according to the US government, this isn't just some group of hackers in a basement. No, they're a highly sophisticated team of programmers who are directly backed by the North Korean regime. They even operate through a front company to look legitimate while they carry out these digital raids all over the world. So these guys are the real deal. Digital mercenaries, bank robbers, and agents of chaos all rolls into one. They've stolen billions and crippled major companies. But the biggest question is, how do they actually pull it off? How do they get in? You might be picturing some super complex, high-tech assault, but the truth is often a lot simpler and a lot more personal. It often starts with something you get dozens of times a day, an email. But this isn't just any old spam. They use a technique called spear-phishing. That means they do their homework. They'll find one specific employee, maybe an accountant at a bank, and they'll craft an email that looks completely real, like it's from their boss or a partner company. The goal is to trick that one person into making one wrong click. That one click might lead to a fake login page, and when that employee enters their username and password, boom, they've just handed over the keys to the kingdom. Once the hackers are in, they move silently, and then they unleash their malware to steal money, wipe the system clean, or hold it all for ransom. And what's so fascinating about this group is their split personality. They act as both a weapon for their country and as a criminal gang out to make money. Take the Sony Pictures attack in 2014. The motivation there, pure revenge for a comedy movie, The Interview, that made fun of their leader. They didn't just steal data, they destroyed thousands of computers in an act of digital rage. But then, just 2 years later, they tried to steal nearly $1 billion from the Bank of Bangladesh. The motivation there was pure cash. It's a cyber army that's part state weapon, part piggy bank. Now, as notorious as the Lazarus Group is, they're just one player on a very, very crowded field. So let's zoom back out and take a look at the bigger picture of how these attacks have spread over the last 10 years. When you look at the last decade, you can see a clear story of escalation. In 2015, we saw hackers prove they could literally turn the lights off in another country, leaving 250,000 people in Ukraine in the dark. A year later, it was about interfering in an election. In 2017, the WannaCry attack spread like a virus, hitting hospitals and businesses in over 150 countries. By 2018, hackers were stealing U.S. missile plants. In 2020, they were caught spying on the African Union headquarters. And by 2023, they were inside a strategic U.S. military base. Each incident is a new, bolder chapter in this invisible war. So the key takeaway here is pretty simple. This is a global problem. It's not just one country doing this. And while many nations are getting in on the act, research consistently shows that 4 countries are at the top of the list: China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Each one has its own agenda and its own special set of skills. But together, they represent the most active and advanced threats out there today. Okay, I know what you might be thinking right about now. This is all about governments and giant corporations, so why should I care? Well, it turns out the front lines of this war are often in the places we least expect. Forget missile silos and spy agencies for a second. The targets are movie studios. They're the pharmaceutical companies that were racing to create COVID-19 vaccines. They're the energy grids that keep our lights on, the banks that hold our money, and even the relief funds meant to help people during a crisis. In one case, hackers stole at least $20 million in COVID relief funds from the US. They're attacking the very fabric of our society. Let's just pick one of those targets: universities. You wouldn't think of a college campus as a battlefield, right? But to these hackers, universities are an absolute goldmine. They're packed with cutting-edge research, sensitive data, and the personal information of millions of students and faculty. And that makes them a prime target. In fact, in 2022, the education sector was targeted almost 15% of the time by these groups, all hunting for the next big breakthrough to steal. Campaigns with names like Silent Librarian have hit universities all over the world, proving that pretty much no one is off limits. It's easy to feel a little overwhelmed by all this, and the picture can seem pretty bleak. But here's the good news. We are not helpless. So let's talk about how we can actually fight back. So, the big question remains, how do we fight back? The threat is complex, it's lopsided, and it is constantly changing. So where do we even begin? Well, it's not about finding one single silver bullet. It's about building a defense that's smart, resilient, and cooperative. At the highest level on the international stage, it's kind of like a diplomatic chess match. It's about getting countries to agree on some basic rules of the road for cyberspace. It means countries sharing intelligence with each other to catch these attackers. It means using things like sanctions to make these attacks painful for the nations that order them. And it absolutely requires governments and the big tech companies that build our digital world to work together. Okay, so that's the big picture. But what about on a more practical level? For a company or even for us? The best way to think about it is like building a medieval castle. It's a strategy called defense in depth. You have a firewall, that's your main castle wall, but you have to assume that wall might get breached. So behind it, you have strong encryption on your data. That's like an inner keep. And then you have strict access controls. Those are the guards who only let certain people into certain rooms. If one layer fails, another one is there to stop the attack. Which brings us to the final and most crucial points. Defending against these incredibly sophisticated threats isn't just a job for spy agencies or IT departments. Think about it. Nearly every successful attack we talked about today, it all started in the same way, with one person clicking one bad link. So, in this invisible war, what is your first and most important line of defense? It's you. It's your awareness. It's that little voice in your head that says, hang on a second, does this email look right? It's your skepticism. It's your knowledge. In a world where entire nations can reach through a screen and into our lives, understanding the threat is the first and most critical step to protecting yourself and everyone around you. In this invisible war,
knowledge is our best defense. Subscribe to this channel, like and share this video with someone you deeply care about to have a foolproof cyber defense.